So then, much like I made a video as a beginner's guide to Fright Nights, I thought why not make a video of a beginner's guide to Scarefest. So then, this video is essentially going to go through what order I do the mazes in if you've never been in a scare maze before, things that I'd recommend actually experiencing at the park because there are things that are sometimes a little bit out of the way, and yeah, my review of the intensity of things so that you know if you want to miss things. So, first up, I thought I'll go through the order to do the mazes if you've never done a scare maze before and you're a bit nervous. So, if you're going on the Fearsome 4, is it Fearsome 4? The attraction which includes the 4 mazes, which I'd recommend doing if you want to save a bit of money if you intend on doing all of them, which I will say you can pick and choose mazes, which if there's some that you don't care about, you can always do it or actually save you a bit of money. So then, first up, I would recommend going in Darkest Depths. It's a very family-friendly maze, to be honest. It's not really intense, and it's not boring at the same time. If you've never been to the event before, with obviously this being your first scare maze, it's a good maze, and the reason it returns so many years and some enthusiasts get a bit upset, quite rightly, because it's been there for like years and years and years, is because it clearly works for the park, because it isn't a bad attraction at all. And it's not ridiculously intense. What's supposed to be the most intense part of this maze, where you meet the Kraken itself, is somebody sat down with obviously the Kraken suit on, just going like that. Which, I'll be honest, I kind of had to hold back laughter a bit because it was like a comedy sketch walking through it. But it's one of those mazes which is more fun than scary. It's one of the ones where you walk through with your mates, and if one of them jumps, you can sort of laugh at them. That's, to be fair, pretty much all I did in Darkest Depths this year, even though I'm the most jumpy in the entire friend group. So most of the time, I'm the one being laughed at. Yeah, definitely recommend trying Darkest Depths first. And although, if for people who've done it before, it's not worth it because it's the same maze every year, if you've never done it, you won't know what to expect and you'll really enjoy it because it is a really good fun maze with a really nicely themed storyline to it as well. So definitely worth giving it a go first off just to see what you think of scare mazes. After that, I'd recommend going in The Invitation. Now this is because this attraction is one which I didn't find scary in any way, shape or form, and neither did anyone that I spoke to while at the event. Now obviously that could be different for you, so I'll explain what it is. And all I'll say is that this isn't an actual scare maze. It's made by a company known as Darkfield, obviously collaborated with the park. Now Darkfield is known for making incredibly immersive experiences that can cause people to hallucinate in some situations, and it's really incredible company. They make attractions that play on your senses. Don't judge it what you think a Darkfield experience will be with The Invitation, because it isn't what Darkfield is known for. In fact, this attraction isn't a representation of what Darkfield can do in any way, shape or form. Don't judge Darkfield on this attraction because they're an incredible company. This attraction isn't, unfortunately. All it is essentially, you walk in, you find out that, I'm pretty sure it's a morgue you're going to, or mortuary. Once you've finished the queue line, you go in, you get in what's a lift for some reason, I don't know. I don't know if that's like a staple thing for Darkfield, because last year in the terminal they had a lift as well. Don't know why that would fit in like 18 something that The Invitation's in, but there's a lift. You go down, once you enter the attraction itself, in the lift the lights will turn off and on, which yeah, I don't really, to be honest, it's not that scary. Once you go into the attraction, you sit down, put on a pair of binaural headphones, which are very high quality and are the staple of Darkfield. They're headphones which are such high quality that they can have distance in where sounds are coming from and direction to them. Very clever pieces of kit, but they're not used for that sort of clever engineering and or audio capabilities, and instead are used for a vampire in the middle that wants to suck your fingers. I'm not joking. One of the main plot points is he sucks on someone's fingers, as you do, and then essentially somebody lets him out and you can hear him scuttling around. Eventually he catches you. Not very intense, really. You might find it scary. From what I've said, you might think, well, I don't like things being sat in complete darkness, because I do need to mention you're sat in complete darkness while the sound is obviously going through your headphones. I personally would say give it a go because it's not very intense, and don't judge it on what Darkfield can do, but give it a go. After that, I'd recommend going into the attic Terror of the Towers. Now this is because I find that this maze is a bit more intense, but then again, as I said, fear is subjective, so I find it more scary because eerie things for some reason really creep me out. So I always quite enjoy a run through in the attic because it's got a nice pre-show and actually has quite a decent storyline to it, and it's a very eerie maze. It isn't an awful maze by any regards, obviously, unless you find things that are eerie really scary, which is pretty much what this attraction relies on, with it actually taking place in the attic of the towers themselves, which is something I love, because Alton Towers Scarefest takes part with a lot of the mazes being within the towers themselves, which is brilliant. After you've been in that, I'd recommend, if you've bought this in addition, to go into Daz Games PANIC. Now this isn't included in the 4 maze combo, so if you haven't got it in that, I'd leave it up to you. It's a lot of money for what you get, which is essentially, it's not as much of a scare maze again, just like The Invitation wasn't a scare maze, it was a like headphone-led, well, it's a dark field experience, which I was just on about, but it's registered as an escape room. I wouldn't say that it is. I'd say it's more of a, I guess there is the escape element to it, but it's more essentially you get given a wristband, you scan it, you know that you've got 2 symbols to find, you get let into the attraction itself, loads of groups, like within an entire group at once. You have 7 minutes to find both of your symbols, which you scan your wristband against and it registers and goes green. If you find both of them and scan your wristband against both, you can walk up to the exit, scan it, it'll turn green, let you leave, and put you on a leaderboard. Now this is one which I didn't even complete because I couldn't find the second one, which is absolutely hilarious. Worth a try if it's something you think you would enjoy and if you're a fan of Daz Games and everything, because it isn't a bad attraction actually. We've seen a lot worse collaborations in the past, and if you don't mind spending the money, definitely give it a go. But it is £10 for a 7-minute attraction, so do bear that in mind. I think a lot of the money for this attraction went into the wristbands. It's not as scary. In fact, if you don't want something really intense, because you're finding so much of your attention is going to finding your symbols, you pretty much forget there's actors in there at all, to be honest. So yeah, really good fun and not very intense, to be honest. The last maze I'd recommend trying, now this is the most intense on park, that is Altonville Mine Tours Tiny's Revenge, which I will have to give a chainsaw warning, which I've discovered that I listen out for in the queue because they absolutely terrify me. There is a chainsaw finale scene in this attraction, and it is obviously the return of what is a previous maze for the park, Altonville Mine Tours, with a few things changed. It's not new. On the ticket thing it says new for this year. It's not. It's the same maze with some things changed. But if you've never been, obviously that won't matter, and it's a very good fun maze actually. Although it's more marketed to be the intense maze on park, it's good fun. I think some mazes go for intensity so much that it's not fun anymore. Like survival games at Thorpe Park, sometimes the actors, because obviously they touch you in survival games, I don't think they do in Altonville Mine Tours, or if they can, they don't do it very often from run-throughs I've had, but they're not as intense, where other attractions just go to be as intense as possible. This sort of tries to stay thematical and have a bit of fun with it. It's just a laugh to go through with your friends, because obviously you always push your limits at a scare event, and if you find that you're scared, that's kind of what's going to happen at an event. This is why people go to them. It's a thing of, oh, it's really scary, but it's designed to be scary and safe. You're always being monitored, you're always safe. They'll always make sure that they have as many measures in place as they can to keep you safe. And that's why it's so good to push your limits here, because it's somewhere you can push your limits while not actually being in any danger. So that is something which I love about Alton Towers and scare events, to be honest. So that's all the mazes. If you're going with like your family and you've got kids, they've got Trick or Treat Town, which is a kids sort of trick or treat experience really. You don't get many sweets for the money, but it's more of an attraction that you can do with your kids as well, so they can get into the spirit of the event. Things that I definitely recommend not missing on the main lawn, you've got the main stage has got shows on every so often, with obviously bars and food stands, which is great fun. I found myself going getting some lunch and a beer and sitting on the lawns and sort of just relaxing for a bit. Really good fun, definitely recommend visiting it. As well as that, something to bear in mind that's in your ticket price, you've got Burial Grounds, the scare zone located next to the Wicker Man, which is obviously a scare zone in the story of the Wicker Man, because obviously the event is more family friendly, hence why they've got kids attractions. So scare zones, you have to go in to encounter the actors, which is something that's great, by the way. If you do go in the mazes and you don't like it and think, I don't want to go in any more mazes, I didn't like that, you can still stay in park and go on the rides, because you're not going to encounter any actors. There aren't any roaming teams apart from the ancestors, but they're more of a dance show. When they do sort of go around and interact with guests, it's not to try and scare the hell out of you. Definitely recommend going in Burial Grounds though, because it is a scare zone. It's including a ticket, it's free. Brilliant to see, given that Merlin asks for money wherever they can nowadays. While you're there, take a trip into the Curse at Alton Manor. It's obviously opened for this year. It's what used to be Jewel, and they've changed into the Curse at Alton Manor. Really good. Obviously, when it opened, there were a few things that were a little bit lapse in that I'm sure a lot of people have heard about. There was all over online people talking about there was a hide and seek scene, which was essentially a way of saying we didn't have enough time to put more theming in this part, or budget, I'm not sure. But what they've done is for Scarefest, it's now got actual elements within that hide and seek scene, and it's improved, it's better than it was, which I don't think can be criticised. It's great to see more in this attraction, so give that a ride. It's really good fun. It's a good attraction really. I really enjoy the Curse at Alton Manor nowadays. You've also got Terra, which has got actors in it, which you see into the story of Nemesis. Rambled on a bit here. What I'm essentially trying to say is things that you can try at the event, and I've sort of gone through my list that I'd do the mazes in. I would say to bear in mind that this is my opinion of the order you could do the mazes in. From what I've said and what happens in the attractions, there's a high chance a lot of you will say, well, I don't want to do that one first, or I don't want to go in that one at all. Yeah, please do bear that in mind, that this is just my opinion. I'd take what I say and what you believe is your sort of scare tolerance and create your list around that. Don't take what I say as gospel, because chances are I've got it completely off here. So do bear that in mind. This is just sort of there to try and say I've been in previous years and know what the event is about, I thought I'd try and shed some light to help people out if they've never been ever, because it wasn't long ago that I was going to these events for the first time and thought, why isn't there a video online somewhere where they actually tell me what to do when? Because I remember visiting Thorpe Park Fright Night and being absolutely petrified in the queue for platform 15 in the daytime. So don't get embarrassed if you're scared, because there was me terrified in a daytime run through of a maze, which was very criticised for not being scary, by the way. That was platform. So yeah, I hope this helps. If it doesn't, apologies, I've probably wasted your time a bit here. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy this video, if it does help, please let me know and put it in the comments, or if you would have better recommendations for people, please put those in the comments as well, because I would love to see what other people would recommend. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy, please do like and subscribe, it would mean the world. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.